How are you doing, buddy? We're 2 weeks into the new year so far, and I hope you're doing well. Let me know in the comments if you're on target with your goals. Maybe you'd like to change something. Maybe you haven't done the best start to the new year. But let me know. I'd like to hear about that. Today's topic is on relationships, and I feel like what I'm about to say will resonate with quite a few of you. And to start off this video, let me tell you a story. So, the story begins 9 months ago when I went to Rome. And me and my partner went to Rome. We booked this trip to Rome. And it was a pretty nice trip. You know, the whole trip was quite nice, very well planned. Seeing a lot of new things. Never been to Rome. And it was a nice trip. So, me and my partner obviously spent pretty much 24 hours together, apart from bathroom breaks and stuff like that. So when you spend a lot of time with someone 24/7, you eat together, you sleep together, you spend every minute together, you go everywhere together for like 1 week, you never leave each other's sights, you don't have your own things to do, you don't have your own hobbies, nothing that you do is by yourself apart from toilet time, and that's pretty much it. And when that happens, obviously a few things will annoy you. Because when you're spending so long together, you kind of start not to appreciate their time, you don't appreciate their presence as much, and you take them for granted. Their presence is abundant. And when that happens, certain characteristics of that person, certain things that they do, will annoy you. And this is very normal. They will annoy you because obviously they are not you. They are a completely different person with different mindsets, and it's a woman. And if you're spending time with a woman, the way a woman thinks is very, very different to how a man thinks. We have a very different thought process, and so do they. And when this happens, when these thought processes meet, and when you spend so long together, like I said, things will annoy you, and you will not agree on certain things. And to make things worse, when things get a little bit shaky and you get annoyed by certain things, if you do not vocalize these things that annoy you to that other person, to your partner, to your girlfriend, to your wife, if you do not tell that person what is wrong, then they will not know what is wrong. They are not going to be able to read your mind. And when that happens, obviously there will be not one thing that just goes wrong, there'll be a couple of things. And when you compile these things together, when everything just goes on top of each other and these problems just build up, and a lot of things annoy you at the end of it, it's like, okay, I'm going to take this in, I'm not going to say anything is wrong, just kind of keep it in. And then another thing and another thing, and obviously then you have like 10, 15 things that are annoying you. And the more things that are annoying you, obviously you will start to internalize and have an internal conflict with yourself. And it is very dangerous to do that, not to talk about these things. Because what happened in my case is I came back from my trip from Rome, being away in a different country, spending a lot of time together, came back and basically broke up with my girlfriend. Because I didn't speak about the things that were annoying me. So one day, I just decided enough, and I'm going to completely end this. Because in this case, it was an easier thing for me to do than to go back and talk about everything that was wrong. And in my head, obviously, after having this internal conflict all the time, after thinking, oh, damn, like I don't want to say this will hurt them, you keep all of these things in your head, it's like, well, if I'm going to say these things anyways, they're going to break up with me anyways, because obviously there are so many things wrong and there's all of these different clashes. And this is not right. This is a complete misconception of how things work in relationships. And this is what happens when you do not speak about the problems in your relationship. So, my advice to you guys, if you are spending time with your partner, your wife, your girlfriend, do not keep things in. Obviously, you do not have to talk about every single problem, every single thing that's wrong, but you have to do something very close to that. There has to be a balance. If you're not happy with something, vocalize it, talk about it. Make these words come out of your mouth. Don't be afraid to speak about certain things, even though if they might hurt someone else. Because at the end, you will end up hurting them anyways, or you'll end up hurting yourself, you'll end up annoying yourself in your own head, you'll end up doing something silly. So, I had a big misconception about how arguments work in total. So, the way I grew up, my parents used to argue a lot. So I grew up not to want to argue at all. I avoided every single argument because obviously I didn't want to argue. I didn't want to, bring up the stuff that I'm afraid of. Childhood trauma. Didn't want to argue. And this is not the way to do things. You need to argue. And you need to argue your point, or else, like I said, you're going to build everything on top of each other and you'll compile all of these things that are wrong, and it will end up going really wrong at the end. So you really have to be honest with your second half. You have to be honest on what you like, what you don't like. You have to speak about these things. And if you ask an old couple some dating advice, some relationship advice, they're going to tell you to argue. They're going to tell you to always resolve things. Always speak about what you don't like, what you like, and overall, never keep anything in. Be honest. And this is my New Year's resolution. It's honesty. It's to be as honest as I can possibly be. To never hold anything back. Be completely genuine with my audience, with my family, with my relationships, with myself, most importantly. And this is a very big asset to have. Honesty. Because, like I said, if you're not honest, then you're pretty much lying. And in this case that I talked about, in relationship, if you're holding things back, if something is going on that you do not like, and you do not vocalize it, then you're basically lying, not only to them, but to yourself. You're literally giving them a wrong idea of what's going on. Because you're not talking about things with your partner, with your relationships, with anybody. If you do not tell people, they're not going to be able to guess what's going on. They're not going to know these things. So you're basically lying. You're basically lying about how you feel. And at the end, the only person that's going to hurt is pretty much you. It's pretty much going to hurt you at the end. So this is my advice to you. Resolve things. Do not keep things in. Make sure you talk about everything. And this is a conversation I had with my girlfriend. Like, we're still together because obviously I got back with her 2 days later because I realized that was a mistake. You get to think about stuff. You're like, okay, I was really irrational, and you get to think about things. And we had this conversation yesterday when I was dropping off, my girlfriend to the train station. We're talking about it, and I said, you know what? Now we laugh about this moment of our relationship, this time that I broke up with her. Now we kind of laugh about it and have some humor. But the thing is, we both agreed that, you have these things in your head that you really don't want to talk about something because you're afraid of hurting that other person. You're afraid of, speaking your mind. You don't want to get into a conflict because it's just uncomfortable. Conflicts for anybody are uncomfortable. They're a moment of complete discomfort. You'd rather not have a conflict because, no one wants to talk about something that is bothering them. No one wants to speak about problems. You always want to be happy. You want to be in that comfortable state. So you're not going to bring up things that you do not like most of the time. But you have to. You have to put yourself in this moment of discomfort to then later on be in a moment of comfort. To be later on in a moment of complete unity with that person. Or else, like I said, you're lying. So we both agree that honesty, no matter how brutal it is, no matter what you need to say it. Because at the end, you will regret not saying these things. At the end, you will always just have in your mind, what if I said those things? Like if something is going wrong and let's say you're not happy with how much room they take up in your bed. Let's say you're sleeping together and they take up 3/4 of your bed. and you go 2 weekends, or 2 weeks sleeping together, and they take up like 3/4 of your bed, and you're not happy about it, at the end it could frustrate you so much that you'll be like, fuck this, I'm breaking up with you because you're taking up 3/4 of my bed, and it may sound silly, but this is how things work. Things compile, things get on top of each other, and then it's like, I want a bed for myself. I don't want to share a bed, so I'm going to break up with you because you haven't said anything. Becomes a bigger problem than it actually was. And yeah, it's better just saying, look, you're taking up so much space in my bed, like, can we draw a line and not, this is not a problem in our relationship, but it's just a hypothetical problem, something that is actually a problem for many people. So yeah, speak about it. Be uncomfortable for a few moments to then resolve it. You're going to regret not mentioning things. You're always going to have this internal conversation with yourself. Oh, what if I had this conversation? Maybe things would have been good. Well, you're not going to know if you don't have a conversation. So that's all I have to say. Do not repeat certain mistakes that I've made, and yeah, that's about it. Like always, peace.